Hey, this is another one of those videos where I'm not going to repeat a lot of what's already in the textbook and lots of videos that you already see. But I do want to offer you sort of three ways to think about sociological scientific methods. One of the things to think about is, obviously, if we want to understand society in the US, for instance, we're talking over 300, close to 350 million people. The problem with something like sociology to try to understand the social world is that there's too many people. There's no way that we can talk to even most of those people. Even if I want to understand the population of 18 to 24-year-olds in America, I still can't talk to all those people. So I've got an immediate issue. If I'm a chemist and I want to understand something that includes hydrochloric acid, I can just go get some hydrochloric acid and see how it affects something else that I want to pour it on. That's easier to do for the most part in chemistry. I can dissect most anything that I want in a biolab. That's fairly easy to do. They have their own issues. Sociology issues is that we want to understand the social world and we can't exactly bottle it up and put it in a lab. So we have to figure out how we're going to get to that information. There are three ways that we mostly do this. In your textbook, in videos, there's so much about the details of those things, but I like to think of three things. One, we can ask people. Two, we can observe them. Or three, we can take a critical look at the data that already exists. So the first thing that you'll learn about is taking a survey. Surveys allow you, usually by questionnaire, to find out a lot of information from a lot of people at once. The good thing is that you can get a lot of information by a lot of people at once. Instead of being able to talk to your whole population, you'll talk with a representative sample of that population. So if I have 100 people, that's 50 men and 50 women, I want to try to get a sample that's close to 50 men and 50 women, because what I learn about the sample of that population, I can generalize on a larger scale if I know something about that sample that makes sense. And there's a lot of techniques that we can use to try to get a representative sample of a population. The other thing that we might use are interviews. Interviews offer another problem. For surveys, who knows how many people are going to respond, whether or not I've asked the right questions. There's no feedback. I ask a question, they give me an answer. I don't even know if they're going to understand my question or if they're going to give me the answer that I want. Interviews let you dig a little deeper than that, but it's a bigger problem because when I was trying to get a representative sample of my population, I usually can't interview that many people. I don't have the time, the money for those like gift cards that I give you as an incentive. There's just not a lot of time. I can get deeper information. I can use some Verstehen, like a deeper understanding. That's what Weber would talk about in symbolic interactionism, a deeper understanding through that interview. But I can't interview that many people. So I get more subjective, thicker information, but I have a harder time generalizing that as information that I know about a social phenomenon. So some of those methods is we ask them. Another set of those methods is that we observe them. Oftentimes when we think of sociology, we think of interpretive sociology. Your book says that it's the sociological approach that seeks understanding of a topic through just observation or interaction. It's not based on hypothesis testing. We don't usually go in with a hypothesis. We usually go in and watch people or observe people and see what kinds of things emerge from that. That may give us some theoretical understanding that we'll test later, or that may help us create a hypothesis that we test later, but usually we're just watching. Those kinds of field research methods include things like ethnography or participant observation. Again, your textbook gives you a lot of feedback on what those things are. Sometimes that means just showing up, and being in a classroom and watch what's going on, or become a member of the classroom and people don't know necessarily that you're doing research and you're a participant so that you can observe what's going on. There's a lot of ethical issues that come with observational or interpretive sociology because you are paying attention to people, sometimes in private environments. And while you want to ask their consent, consent is required of most research, The question is, do they act differently if they know that you're watching? So interpretive sociology, where we observe people or understand through our interactions with people, is another thing that we can do. So we can ask them, we can observe them. The third thing that we can do in terms of our methods is try to take a critical look of the data that already exists. There's all kinds of data sets. Again, if we ever want to understand socioeconomics, there's a whole lot of data sets where I can understand the educational attainment of people, whether or not people own their homes or not, how much people make in a salary. There's public information through the state or through the government. And there's a whole lot of universities that take a whole lot of, make a whole lot of data available to researchers, even the US Census, which really is just a huge, large survey that's happening every 10 years. That data is available. A critical sociologist, instead of going to ask people again or observing people again, might take what it is we already understand with another critical eye. Critical sociology is trying to really deconstruct the understanding that we already have, things that we've taken for granted, or things that we understand that might be based in ideologies that are problematic. So like earlier, or the legacy of institutional racism, for instance, or very sexist understandings of things, or heteronormative understandings of things, or stuff that we've just ignored historically over time. Critical sociologists will look at data that's already there and sort of deconstruct them and try to understand them in ways that maybe we haven't done that. And again, it's not understanding for no good reason. It's not just academics. It's because we may have a goal for bettering society. The goal is for social change. How can we do something differently that we haven't been doing before? So when you hear things like critical race theory or critical gender theories, those are sociologists, or typically mostly sociologists, who are usually just trying to understand what it is we know from another perspective that maybe we've ignored before. So again, I'm not going to go through all those research methods. Your book does a great job. There's a lot of videos online about that, but I do think that it's cool to think about them in those three buckets. So I wanted to offer that to you. How do we understand social behavior when we can't ask everybody in a population? We figure out ways to ask them, and that has their limitations. We figure out ways to observe them, absolutely has its limitations and its ethical problems, or we use the data that's already there and take a critical eye to it. Okay, see you in the next video.